Today we're going to talk about consent and the three S's that make it hard to say no. Safety, systemic, and shoulds. My name is Sean. I'm a mental health coach. I see 40 plus clients a week. I have a 98% satisfaction score from over 1,400 ratings. And one of the big things that I work with my clients on is boundary setting and empowering them to feel like they can set effective boundaries. So I'll start with a story. Recently, I was having a conversation with somebody and they told me about this time that they went into a shop and they were having a great conversation and they were having a great time sort of going through the process. And then at the end of the process, the salesperson showed them the price. And they felt so guilty because, they'd been having such a great time and they'd taken up so much time that they felt obligated to buy this thing, even though it was completely outside of their budget. And so they racked up even more credit card debt than they already had because they felt obligated to buy this thing. This story is such a beautiful parable for consent. Let me say it simply first, and then I'll go into all the complexity. You always have the right to withdraw consent anytime during any interaction. And if somebody disagrees with that, if somebody argues with you on that, run. And what's interesting is that most people agree on this principle. Like when I say this to clients, a lot of times the reaction that I get is like, yeah, I know I have the right. So why do we not say no? That's where the three S's come in. So it starts with safety. Sadly, oftentimes people don't feel safe saying no. And it's really important that we understand this because if we don't, it's a slippery slope to victim blaming. And when I say that it's important that we understand this, that includes for the person that doesn't feel safe saying no. Because a lot of times, even the person themselves feels like it's their fault because they didn't say no, even though they didn't feel safe in the situation. And so they did what they had to in order to get by and get out of the situation. And what happens is that when blame is incorrectly assigned internally like that, when you feel like it's your fault because you didn't say no, what happens is that we can't process it because it's not pointed at the right thing. And so what I see with people that I work with is that when we start to redirect that blame back where it belongs, once you are in a safe environment, then healing can start to occur. Otherwise, what ends up happening is that blame sort of gets stuck in our emotional circulatory system. And by the way, if you haven't heard me talk about the emotional circulatory system before, this video, it'll pop up, I think it's in this corner, it'll pop up in this corner. We'll go into more detail about what I mean by the emotional circulatory system. But when you start to assign blame to the right place, it allows it to pass through your emotional circulatory system. So there are a few things that we can do to help with this safety issue. The first is that we can be really intentional about helping people to feel safe. So this is something that I constantly have to practice in my work because I work with a lot of women and I am a white man. And so I have an understanding when I do the work that I do that I'm not starting from a neutral first impression. I'm actually starting from like a negative first impression because I have all of their past experience that is impacting how they view me. So in my work, I'm very mindful of that and work to counterbalance it, which is why one of the comments that I get with a lot of people that I work with is I just felt really comfortable with, therapists that I've worked with in the past. It took like 5 sessions for me to open up this much. And we can all practice that in our day-to-day lives. The second thing that we can do to help with safety is that we can do our own work. So we've all heard this expression, hurt people hurt people. A big part of the reason that people feel unsafe in situations is because someone else is lashing out from a place of hurt. And so by working on healing ourselves, we make other people feel more safe, which then allows them to heal, and the cycle just continues on and on and on. The third thing is to do whatever you need to do to make yourself feel safe. So whether that's carrying mace with you, taking some self-defense classes, or just wearing a badass outfit so no one dares fuck with you, do it and don't apologize for it. And finally, the last thing when it comes to safety is that we can all hold each other accountable. So if, for instance, you're playing a video game and somebody says something really hurtful to somebody else, rather than just sitting there quietly, speak up and stand up for the person. And yes, it is very uncomfortable. It does make the situation tense. But you know what's more uncomfortable? Not feeling like you can say no because you don't feel safe. So let's talk about the second S, systemic. I'm going to speak specifically to women here because society conditions women to be good girls, but that's like the dystopian title for it. That's not actually what it is. When you strip away the glossy skin from what a good girl is, it is actually just somebody that abandons their own needs, that shrinks themselves down in order to please others. And if that's what being a good girl is, then I say cheers to being a bad girl. And the last one is shoulds. So shoulds definitely oftentimes come from societal expectations, but not always. Sometimes, for instance, our parents place shoulds on us that are different than the normal societal expectations. And one really great way to be able to identify shoulds is when you say, I should do X, Y, Z, ask yourself why. And if the answer is, well, because that's just what you're supposed to do, then it's a high likelihood that it's a should. If you can't justify for yourself why you should do something, then it's probably not your belief, it's somebody else's. So what I really want to drive home is that you have the right to say no. And if you don't feel like you can say no, it is worthwhile exploring why and taking steps to make it so that you can. If you want to do a quick check-in on your mental health, there's a free 2-minute quiz where you can just get some quick insights into areas that you might want to focus on. I'll leave the link down in the description. And finally, if you want to see how somebody goes from being a people pleaser to feeling empowered and feeling like they have the right to say no, this video that'll either pop up here or it'll be down in the description depending on where you're watching this, is a case study on how I help clients go from people pleaser to empowered. Check it out. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you later. Bye! I'm gonna sneeze. Come on, let it out. Nope, doesn't want to. So in my work, nope, I'll get it.